Who was I talking to? Oh, I was talking with my friend Burt Rutan. We're sitting out there on his porch. Actually, we're sitting inside because it was cold up there, and looking out over the porch and out over his backyard there. And he said he had a liberal friend who said that Trump is a dictator. And he said, I don't know how I respond to that. And I said, the fact that he can call him a dictator means that he's not. If he can't do it, then he isn't. If he can't stifle political opposition, then he's not a dictator. And if he can stifle it and is a dictator, then we wouldn't be hearing any of this stuff. When I hear people say, oh, he's a dictator, he's a tyrant, tyrants and dictators put their political opposition to death. They disappear in the night. You know, ask Bonhoeffer about that, or any number of other people, Solzhenitsyn, all of them. If he can't, then he isn't. That's basically what I said. If he can't, then he isn't. If he can't put people in prison, then he's not a dictator, and he can't, so he's not. It's just too easy sometimes. One of the reasons I'm so just low energy today and kind of sad was just really lost my cool last night. You know, I was just got back from work and decided to just fly around and scope out the verse and log in there, and the first thing I see in the chat section is somebody saying that free speech is fine, but no hate speech. But you can't have hate speech, and I just went off, you know. And it's not the right place to do it, and I just got really angry, and it was like, you know, there's somebody is telling me that hate speech needs to be banned because it's offensive to people, and I try to explain to them, well, I find what you're saying offensive to me, so your speech needs to be banned. I find what you're saying to be offensive, and I find it to be hurtful and hateful, so shut up. And they don't get it. They just can't see it. And I just spent a lot of time in a chat room on a game, just you know, trying to nail this smoke to the wall. I really don't understand how. I don't know. It's just I just sometimes I just sit there and indoctrinated to say the least. Well, you know what? It's like what do you say? You know, what do you say when you have young Americans who are talking about no, these things you should not be allowed to say because people find them offensive. And I say, you find them offensive. And you're saying a lot of things I find offensive. And then say, well, you clearly don't understand the Constitution. And at that point, I just kind of lost my mind. Anyway, and it probably doesn't help that I was flying around after that and let it drop after a while. I'm just minding my own business. And the next thing you know, I'm just looking at my shields, and they're getting lit up by this guy, and we were in like this 10-minute dogfight, and I had this big strong fighter that can't hit anything, and he's just better than me, you know. I mean, that's all there is to it. The kid's better than me, and no matter how hard I try, I just might as well get all of this ridiculousness out of my head. It's just, I don't care. I know I look ridiculous. That's okay. Sometimes I do ridiculous things. But last night I was in there after having had this political discussion, only to have this guy jump me, and then and I got out of there. But I ran. I was either that or get blown up, and that made my blood boil. I hate losing. I hate it, and it made my blood boil. I honest to God, if I could have found this guy, I would have beaten him to death with a tire iron. That's how I felt. I'm not kidding. I really did. I was just that angry. And then I have to, you know, watch the rest of this comment stream and stuff. And it was like, yeah, you can either stay there and have him kill you, or you can run away. I took the run away, and I'm proud of that. That was a smart decision. And then I just stuck with some bizarre ideas, some of which have some merit, but it's just the whole thing's just, I don't know. It just been a rough couple days. But to get an idea, it's like I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, no matter how much and this, believe it or not, is maybe a metaphor for the bigger world. I'm not trying to bore everybody with all this Star Citizen stuff all the time. But I look at it and I realize, okay, I'm 60. These guys are probably 24, maybe younger, maybe a little older, but they're certainly faster than I am. And since these vehicles in Star Citizen don't behave like real airplanes, they have their own unique flight system. And part of it is kind of based on real physics, and part of it's not. But the bottom line is it's not a real airplane. If it was a real airplane that actually stalled and stuff, I'd have a good chance of beating these guys. But I don't. And so they're faster than me, and they spend more time on it than I do. And no matter how much I ammo up and armor up, and no matter how much Martin Archer just said I should do 40 push-ups to cool off the anger. That's damn good advice. I wish I'd thought of that last night. This has been bothering me for 24 hours now. Might as well just talk about it, I guess. But there is a lesson in this, a positive lesson, and it's not just applies to the game, although, frankly, right now, that's all I can really think about. And it's just pretty simply this. It's frustrating to be lectured on the Constitution by somebody that not only doesn't know anything about the Constitution, but has it pretty much exactly backwards. But then have that person jump you in a fight where your adrenaline is engaged. It may seem like that's a nutty idea if you're not into video games, but I can assure you that if you are fully adrenalized there. And I just was filled with just this burning frustration. That's it. Aesops for the win. He says I have PTUSD, Public Test Universe, not PTSD, PTUSD. That's a classic line. Aesops, congratulations, you win the internet. But anyway, here's the point. So I'm sitting here thinking, I go back in and I apologize to my wife, because I'm like just smoke coming out of my ears. I'm so angry. And I'm sitting there thinking about this, and I realize there's nothing I can do about this. There's nothing I can do. They're better than me. And there's that old line about, age and guile beats youth and inexperience or something like that. And the fact of the matter is, I'm sure I make a little more money than this guy, and I can afford to kind of up armor and up arm these ships. I can put the best stuff on them. They might be able to as well, but the point is, it's not enough. They're going to win. They're going to win. And that's when I had another, it's not a revelation because I've had this thought before, but it hit me in the guts. It's like, this is my entire argument for the entire Aurora Republic military, and the fictional president of the Republic has a book called From Greek hoplites to the thatch weave, how to beat people who are better than you. Here's what I realized. I realized that I'm probably I bet I'm a better pilot in terms of ship-to-ship combat. I would say I'm better than 85% of the people in that game. But I'll never be better than the 15%. There's nothing I can do about it. I don't have the time to put into it. And worse than that, I don't have the mental fluidity to basically relearn all of the things that I've learned in thousands of hours of air combat and so on. So here's what I realized, and I think this is an important point, and I know this whole show is kind of a catastrophe, but that's the way it goes. I realized that there's only one way I can get around this. There's only one way that I can consistently go out there and not have to have this sickening sense of being beaten by some punk-ass kid. Because they will continue to beat me one-on-one. They will always, if I run into the good ones, they're always going to kick my butt. And it makes me furious. Edward says, has that kid ever flown a real plane? No, he's never done anything. He's never done anything. That's not the point. He's not out there in the real world. If he was, I'd be smugly kicking his ass. But that's not the case. I'm in his world. And then I realized it's like, no, there is an answer to this. And the way that old timers like me can beat people who are more experienced than I am and more skilled than I am. And there's only one way to do it, and that is to never fly alone. That's that. That's just that simple. It's the thatch weave, and I had a chance to experience the thatch weave. I had a chance to experience the emotional impact of it. I'd known about it intellectually. For those of you who haven't heard it before, I mentioned it a few times. But basically, in the early days of the Pacific War, the Japanese pilots had 7, 8, 10 years of experience in China. They destroyed us, blew us away at Pearl Harbor. They went on and took all of Southeast Asia. For the first 6 months prior to Midway, they were just the kings of the world. And then we were sending up pilots who weren't as good as their pilots, and we were sending them up on airplanes that weren't as good as their airplanes, and we were just simply being massacred. And there was no other way to look at it. They're better pilots in better planes, period. You're going to simply lose if you go up against these guys. And so the only answer is really to run away, which I really didn't feel like. And besides, you can't run away if you're flying air cover over your carriers. You can't run away. You just got to go in there and get your ass kicked. And then along comes this guy named Jimmy Thatch, one of the great leaders of any stripe in any service, just a great natural leader. And legend has it he got out of a dogfight and walked over to the wing of his Wildcat, which is a flying barrel. Big, fat, heavy airplane. Had some advantages. It could take more punishment, probably hit a little harder, but nothing like as maneuverable, and the pilots had no experience. And we're just getting waxed by these Japanese samurai and their little katana zeros. And we're flying along, lumbering. We don't even get a chance to see them half the time. We can't outturn them. They're just blowing us out of the sky. And so Thatch came along with this idea, and legend has it he walked over to the wing of his big, fat, blue Wildcat and pulled some matches out and put them on the wing. And he said, basically, all right, so here's a single American airplane, and here's a Japanese airplane, and whichever angle they meet, the Japanese airplane's going to rapidly outturn you. He's going to get behind you. He's going to light you up and blow you out, and there's nothing you can do about it. You cannot outturn him. Even if you were more skilled, even if you switched airplanes, you still wouldn't beat him. He's a better pilot than you. He's in a better airplane. And then he said, but if you fly like this, side by side, and you get jumped, it doesn't matter what angle you get jumped on. If you start to do this, if you start to do these S-turns like this, what that means is he's going to go after one of the two of you. And then the person who he's going after simply has to evade. He just has to just jink and get out of the way. If you continue to do this continue crossing maneuver, as you turn, he's going to turn inside you. He's going to have you in just a few seconds. But as he's coming around like that, your wingman is coming the other way. He's got a high deflection shot there, enough to probably break him off your tail. Then he can get on his tail. And if he comes after you, then the original lead can turn onto him. And it's this back and forth motion. It's called the Thatch weave, which is a beautiful coincidence with his name, because Thatch weave sounds like a kind of a fabric. And Thatch just chalked it out. And he told all of his crews about it, and the crews went up there and they practiced it, and then they got into combat with it, and that was the end of the problem over. It's like, yes, they didn't change the planes, they didn't get more experience, but they had a tactical breakthrough. And that tactical breakthrough kept them in the war until we got better airplanes. By the time we got to the end of the war, we were making better airplanes than they were. The Hellcat was a good airplane. I thought the Corsair was a fantastic airplane. And they never improved the Zero. Well, not until the very end, and by then it was too late. Anyway, this tactical breakthrough worked, and I'm sitting there licking my wounds last night and just boiling in my own juices and thinking, the way to do this is just, I should just never go out there alone. I should go out there at least in pairs. And in that way, if somebody gets jumped, all that guy has to do is go full defensive, and his wingman gets on him. And when he turns for the wingman, then you turn back on him, and then he's in a 2-to-1 fight. Then he's on the defensive. Then the B+ level of skill that I have will be enough to take out an A-plus pilot, but not by myself. And when I went into when I finally got to bed on last night, that gave me some real comfort. It was like, so there's a way out of this, and I have no problem with that whatsoever. I mean, it's not like, well, you beat me 2-1. It's like, hey man, I beat you the only way I could beat you. I beat you by outthinking you. So why don't you just go straight back to hell? So now it's a question of finding guys who want to fly regular basis out there and just really practice and get it over with. Do it right. I've been spending a year trying to get this gigantic, huge, heavy fighter called a Vanguard to fight, and you can make it super strong and put big shields on it, and it's big, tough airplane, but the guns are locked forward. You just can't hit anything with it. You just can't. I'm just go up there and, and then I went up and took something lighter and put gimbal things on it with mass drivers and just explodes. So anyway, I really would like to, for those of you who are watching, who are members of the Aurora Republic or part of the Star Citizen thing, I really would like to get into some squadron work and really practice, because I'd like to go out there in identical aircraft types, and I'd like to just mind our own business and clean up bad guys. And if we get jumped by some lunatics, I just love to just do it. So, yeah, I saw what you said there, XNOR, attrition 4 on the nose, and the GVSRs. I've tried it. You can't. I was shooting this guy all day. That was a pretty good shot, and it doesn't matter. It's not hitting hard enough. Anyway, I'm not going to get too in the weeds about that. So anyway, I just want I want to fly organized for a while. I just want to find whoever out there is interested in turning this into a discipline, and then I want to talk to Foghorn, our Secretary of Defense, and I want to work tactics. And if that means we have to fly in groups of 2s or 3s or 5s or 8s or whatever, that's fine. One thing I did realize, and this is the last thing I'll say about this whole subject, but you get, I don't know if it's called target lock or buck fever or whatever you want to call it, but you get to the point where it's like you're engaged in this shooting battle, and you can watch your shields going down, and you're taking damage, and you're just so determined to kill this guy that you're staying on him, and you're staying on him, and hoping you're going to kill him before he kills you. It's really stupid. And what the hell was I going to say? Just one of those days. Hang on a second. This is actually worth recovering. What was it? Oh, and so you're not only am I fixated on the target, thank you, Foghorn, but you're just so determined to get this guy. And I realized if you go out there with a wingman and you don't shed that attitude, it's not going to make any difference. You're either going to be staying on this target much longer than you should and taking either enough damage to knock you out or enough to kill you, or your wingman's going to take that damage while you're so busy concentrating on finishing this guy off. And on some dim corner of my ape brain, it's suddenly dawning on me, and I don't know how to the degree that this is taught, and I suspect it's taught aggressively, but it began to dawn on me independently that the only thing that matters on a mission is that your wingman doesn't get hurt or shot down. That's all. That's the only thing that matters is does your wingman come home? That's it. And I think if you could get to that place, and it would take a lot of practice, then I think you'd be tough to beat. If your entire training was, maybe we get some kills, maybe we don't, maybe we run, maybe we don't, and maybe I'm going to get blasted, but I'm going to protect my wingman. And if everybody's thinking that way, then needless to say, and if my wingman's thinking that way too, then we'll see. we've been doing this for 2, 3 years now, and I just really want to try it. I really want, and not just once. I want to commit to it. I want to get out there and I want to fly identical aircraft so that, so it's not a ragtag collection, and then I just want to give it a try. Anyway, that's enough cheer for today. Let's see what we got here. I'm going to swing on over to the Facebook page, and then I'm going to look at the BillWhittle.com thing, and then I'm going to go home. Let's see what we got here.